and thank you for taking time out to come up here and meet everybody.
Thanks.
So, start with the generic. How did you get the role in this film?
Okay, actually I had Variety magazine, and a friend of mine saw it was a little tiny ad. It said, "Looking for male, extremely thin, on the verge of anorexic to play mummy." And I've always been like super skinny and small, and he said, "You should go for that." It's like, oh, yeah, right. So I did. And I went to Sony Studios, which is unusual because I didn't go through a casting person. I went directly to the studio. And Fred Decker was there with someone, and they were getting like a heated discussion, argument. And he said, walk across the floor for me. And he said, and kind of like move your arms and whatever, and drag your foot. And so I walked back and forth a couple times. And he said, okay, great, now just do something with your hand. And he said, great. And then they started getting like a little heated discussion. And he says, as far as I'm concerned, you got the part. Then he went back to her, and they were yelling and talking again. And so I was at work one day, and I got a call, and it was someone from Sony Studios, and they said, Michael MacKay said, yeah, they said, congratulations, but you got the part as the Mummy in the Monster Squad. Congratulations. And I was like, and that's how I got it. Through an ad saying, looking for someone extremely thin on the verge of anorexic. So I went in on that, and that's how I got it.
That's great.
So were you in that rapping more often than not, or were you half you, half a stuntman? And the screen time as far as being in the Mummy?
Oh yeah, no, that was me the whole time. The whole time I was in that, and a lot of people asked me, was it uncomfortable? It wasn't, because it was all muslin, and the longest part was wrapping me with the extra muslin, and I was in it the whole time. It was like wearing like pajamas, really. It was kind of comfortable, actually. But yeah, I was in the whole thing. I never had a stunt double or anything. Even with the Jeep, going down the road and everything, they made a special harness for me, and they welded it to the back of the Jeep, and they just laid me into it, and I was like fit right in like a puzzle. And they strapped me in, and I was very secure. So that was me the whole time. Except, of course, when I disintegrate. Yeah.
Oh, you have another person?
Yay.
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
No. Duncan, Regehr.
That's right.
So Monster Squad is now a panel.
Hello.
We had just started, and I had asked Michael how he got the part in the film. So now I'll ask you that question. Do you recall how you got the role?
Is this on?
Should be.
Okay. It was actually an audition process that took place over several days, and it kind of it boiled down to several visits between myself and another wonderful actor, an actor who's much more wonderful than I am, actually, Liam Neeson. I'm a big fan of his work. I think he's brilliant. But for this particular role, I think I was probably nastier somehow, so they picked me. But that's how it kind of worked out. There were several visits to the producers and the studio. And that's how it worked.
Well, the character, which is Dracula, Count Dracula, and pretty much the lead in the film, actually. It was a big starring role in that movie. How did you feel about that? I mean, because it was pretty much promoted as this big film. It was kind of an odd film. If everybody, hopefully everybody here remembers the movie. It's promoted as a children's film, but yet it was an adult children's film.
Yeah, and I think that didn't do it much service at the box office. In fact, it really came down to one line determining whether it would, go for one rating or the other. Guess which line?
Son of a bitch.
Exactly. But the producers, in their wisdom, you have to give it to them. They said, no, we're going to keep that line in because it's actually the moniker for the show practically. And I think what it did in the end was give it some lasting power as a cult film. because it's really worked down through the years, and it's a wonderful generational type of film. The people that watched it with their kids back then when it first came out, those kids that now had kids, and those kids watch it. So it's a wonderful family kind of, I hesitate to say cult film, but it's very popular in that sense. And it may have just, if we took that line out and got the other rating for the film, it might have just come and gone and never become anything. So we have to be grateful to them for something.
Fred Dekker is very popular because he's done a lot of television, but the few features he's done have really got a following.
Yeah.
Because they were a cult again, because his movies are unusual, and like the best of his television work is unusual. What do you remember about working with Fred Dekker?
He was so kind, and he was so patient, and he was just so positive, and he's like, always like, good job, and it's like really nice. It's like, so it's like he always gave a real positive feedback. Good job, and I really loved him, and he was great to work with. He was a great man, and like I say, when I auditioned that one time, it's like, as far as I'm concerned, you got the part. Then he went back to his his argument or whatever, and positive all around. That's what I really remember about Fred. He was really cool. He was a really great guy.
Yeah.
Duncan?
Yeah, I had Fred and I had our differences at the beginning, but we sort of worked them out. I think I threw a hammer at him at one point. Sort of put a punctuation on my point. But yeah, we at the beginning when we worked with the character, I think he was coming from the school that this guy was a monster, so he wanted more of those kind of grander, monsterish kind of qualities to it. And I said, well, no, this guy's actually got a lot of human in him that people can relate to. He's more like a sociopath in a way, because, like any villain, he knows exactly what he wants, and he will stop at nothing to get it. So I was more interested in giving him a sense of humor and having, the campier sort of lines, and so that he wasn't completely dark. He was more, rather than saying he was just dark, he's malevolent. And that's kind of what I was after. And Fred sort of got onto that bandwagon after a while and pursued it, and then the writing changed. We started to get into the picture deeper, and it really began to gel, really worked, especially after I threw the hammer.
I think that's the hammer made its point. What do you
Hit
two
the nail on
know?
the head, anyway.
What do you guys recollect about working with children? Because they were the heroes of the film, and you guys had to work with the kids a lot.
Yeah, two in particular. Michael Faustino, the little boy, he became really protective of me, and it was really sweet. It's kind of like, it's like I'd be walking to lunch, and it's like, you okay? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, well, I'd be eating, you'd say, you okay? And it's like, you'd wipe the food from my mouth, and he's always like looking at me like, you okay? And he's very protective, and he's very sweet. And now, Phoebe, at one point, she got really, she didn't want to do the scene where I walk up to her, and all of a sudden she said, I don't want to look at him, I'm scared. And it's like, finally Fred came up to me and said, look, can you go up to her and kind of show her that you're really Michael, and that you're really human? And so I went, I lifted up my lip or something to show her I had real skin under there or something like that, and everything, because she didn't want to look at me, but she had to, and I had to look in her eyes as I had to, And so she finally calmed down, and she was able to do it, and after a lot of, coaxing and everything, and when she felt safe and all that, whatever. And so got to that point, and Fred said, yeah, kind of go up to her and kind of So we did the scene, and it worked out. But it was a little time there where she didn't want to do it because she was too scared to look at me. But she finally did, and so she did the scene like a little trooper, and she got through it, and we got through it. It was great. And I loved working with all the kids. They were really good to work with. They were a lot of fun. Yeah.
Duncan, your recollection of working with children?
You know, it was one of the things that Fred and I worked out was to make sure that there was the opposite kind of approach to the children with the character of Dracula, because it really gave them a sense of believing in the supernatural and the dark danger of the character. So we maintained a distance, and in fact, I don't think I ever met any of the kids when I wasn't in character or in costume, and it worked very well for the film to do that. And Phoebe, you're right, Phoebe was a real trooper, and man, could that kid scream. Oh.
Yes, she could.
You know, I had the lines, "Give me the amulet, you bitch," and then she screamed and she scared the hell out of me. So.
It was also a bit of a physical role for you, but then again, you had done Zorro before that.
No, I did Zorro later.
Was there Zorro later?
Yeah.
Oh, I stand corrected. Well, then, that was the beginning of your physical...
Not really, no. I go way back. I'm actually about 90 years old.
I remember watching Zorro, you know, how much running around you had to do with that.
Mhm.
So for some reason, I just thought it was earlier. The makeup for the Monster Squad, the makeup. Now, you were Mummy, you know, did it take a long time to get you in there?
Actually, it didn't. And like I said earlier, all of my entire costume was all muslin. So first I just put the muslin suit on, the basic muslin suit, and then they wrapped me. That's the thing that took the longest, was the wrapping with the extra bandages. And the head slid on, and my hands went on like gloves. So it was pretty direct, and it was pretty, they got it down to a science, and it was like very lightweight, so there's really no complications with it. I didn't feel like all bound up or anything. And so it was a pretty lightweight suit, so it was okay.
Now that script was written by Shane Black with Fred Decker. And, you know, everybody knows Shane Black did the Lethal Weapon films. And,
Right.
he finally got to do Iron Man 3. Great movie, Robert Downey and Val Kilmer, which I forgot the name of. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is a fantastic film. And this is one of the efforts, like, nobody, when you say Shane Black, nobody thinks of the Monster Squad. But he wrote that with Fred Decker. Did you guys meet Shane at any point?
Mhm. Yeah, I knew Shane quite well, actually, and he'd written a couple of other pilot treatments for me after Monster Squad as well, so we got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah, he's actually doing Doc Savage now. He's really
Yeah.
trying to get that
Yeah.
off the ground. That would be great. So years later, in this movie, The Monster Squad, which didn't do huge box office, and all of a sudden people are clamoring for the DVD release, and then hopefully for Blu-ray release, and then now people come up to you, and before it came out on Blu-ray and DVD, but the anniversary edition, have people mentioned this film to you? Like, do you know when it might be coming out or something like that? Like you guys would know.
Like we would know, sure.
Yeah.
Endlessly, actually, people ask about it. As I say, it's one of those films that's kind of generational in that way, so people grow up with it and they continue to watch it, so, yeah.
And it created a life of its own.
Yeah.
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 I'd like to take some questions. Does anyone have any questions for our two guests, Monster Squad fans? No questions. Please.
Good.
Well, this is a more general question, not necessarily about Monster Squad. From all the characters that you have played in your career, which one is most close to your heart, or the one that you like more, and why?
I have to say The Mummy. I mean, I played some cool characters over time, but The Mummy was my first feature film, and it was really dear to my heart. And mummies, I got a real affection for mummies now. Anything mummy, like a friend of mine gave me a little mummy statue I still have to this day, and it glows in the dark. I got a little, which I forgot. I have a little mummy chain on a chain that hangs. I can put it on my belt or on my collar. It's like I just have an affinity with mummies, and also gargoyles. I played a gargoyle in the first HBO film, Casa de Spell. I said that's the second one, but The Mummy is always going to be dear to my heart. I love The Mummy so much. For
me, it would have to be, well, it's several, I mean, really been lucky in my career to play a lot of iconic characters, and for sure, Zorro, of course, it was great fun, and that's really two characters in one, so it's really a lot of fun to play. And of course, Dracula, wonderful, absolutely fantastic to play. But the other one I would have to say actually was not for film or for television, it was for the theater, and that was Abraham Lincoln, which I played in John Brown's body, and that was a wonderful role to play. And there's been many others, playing Pat Garrett with Val Kilmer and Billy the Kid was great fun, and those are, again, very famous, almost mythological people that I've played all the way through. I've been very lucky that way, and I'm very grateful for it.
Errol Flynn.
And yeah, last but certainly not least, Errol Flynn. And he was a guy who never wanted to live past, halfway through his life, and he certainly didn't, but he had a great time in the first half, so. Yeah. So there was a question here. Hi.
Hi. You were saying how they decided to keep the dialogue regardless of the rating that it would get. Were there any significant script changes as the movie went along, or did it stay pretty much true to the initial script you guys received?
No, I think it transformed. I'm speaking for both of us, I think, when I say, it did transform as we went along.
Right.
And we also had the expertise of Peter Hyams, with his infusion into the script and ideas and what have you. So it did sort of, it was in the days when we took a little more time to make movies, and so you had time to contemplate things, sleep on it overnight, and come back fresh with a new idea or whatever. So yeah, it did. The dialogue changed, and certainly on my character did, because as I say, I wanted to infuse it with more of the campness of the character and also that sort of sociopathic drive to so yeah, things changed.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
When preparing for a role, particularly a role such as Abraham Lincoln or something as iconic as the Mummy, something that has been done many times and very well, it's said that actors, when they're preparing, are not so much looking to transform themselves into a character, but look to find something in the character that they already have inside themselves. Could you comment on that?
Sure. Go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, actually, as for the Mummy, it's like once I got into the outfit, I was the Mummy. I got the full feeling. My body changed. My whole attitude changed, and I was the Mummy. When I got out of the outfit, I was back to Michael Reid MacKay again. But that really helps. Now, there was one role, I played Charles Manson in a TV movie. And that was one role where I had to do a little research. And the producers said, when you play Charles Manson, they gave me this documentary to look at. And I also read Helter Skelter. But I looked at this documentary. I talked the way he did. I got his hand movements, his gestures, his little quirkiness, and I imitated that, and that helped me along. And when I put this was when he had the long bushy hair look. When I got into that bushy hair look and his bell bottoms and everything and his look, this woman came up to me and she said, "Oh my God." She like backed up and she said, "You look just like Charlie." She said, "I knew him." And she said, you look just like him. And I didn't realize he was a real small guy as well, because I knew him well, and you look just like him. And when I walked up the hill, everyone just kind of like parted, like the seas, it's like, damn, So it's kind of like creepy. So it was kind of cool. So I just got into that mode where I felt, again, once I looked like him, I felt like him. I had the movement, I had the gestures, and I was Charles Manson. So.
Did you find anything about, particularly Charles Manson, speaking about character?
Yeah.
A real individual who's really larger than life.
Right.
Did you find that there was something inside yourself that, maybe even frighteningly so, matched up with the character, the way there was some intersection?
there's this scene where I had this quiet rage while I had a knife under the other actor's throat, and I just like pulled different things from my past where I felt like I was on the verge of like really blowing up, and I used that, and it was kind of like that contained rage, and I just pulled that from my real life and injected it into my character. So you do little things like that, you know, and I did throw out. So, yeah, so that's what I did. Yeah.
And when playing Lincoln, particularly,
Yeah.
were you able to find something in yourself, perhaps, that intersected with how you believed Lincoln might have been as a real human being?
Yeah, it was, again, you know, you're talking about an iconic
Yeah.
man, a real man. And, you know, the project I was dealing with was from John Vincent Benet's poems from John Brown's Body. And so it was really trying to find, to live up to something that was so huge that I couldn't really find very much inside myself that was as profound as those words and as the man had become. I'm sure that Abraham Lincoln was just an ordinary guy underneath everything, but he's not. Today, he's not that. He's reached the level of legend and myth, almost, with, you know, the things that he did in his lifetime. So you're dealing with somebody who's much larger than life. So to find things within yourself, you just try to rise and be as huge as you possibly can be, as magnanimous as you can be, as righteous as you can be in the best possible way. And that is it's a tough place to get to try and treat yourself almost to deify yourself in a way. It's really hard, but you have to do it in order to convey it to an audience, to get it to be that size. And I don't possess any of those qualities, so I don't know where they come from. You know, it's much more a much more easier approach to something like Errol Flynn, where you've got a lot of movies to look at, you've got the book, all of these different things that he's done to tap into, to find the key to the character, and then build from there, if you wish. And you know, it also relates to two schools of approach to acting. The American approach is more, you know, what Michael's been talking about finding something within yourself and going from there. The British approach works the other way around. They go from the outside in. So they find, you know, they might find the character in a pair of shoes, or approach Zorro and you find the character in the cape, and the cape somehow tells you how he moves, and how he moves somehow tells you how he operates as a person in the guise of Zorro, or perhaps the color of the clothes that he wears. I mean, you know, my approach to Zorro for his movement was nothing to do with the fox, but it was to do with the panther. So I gave him more cat-like moves rather than jittery fox-like moves. So there's all different approaches. Yeah.
Could you do a few seconds of Lincoln meets Manson?
There is a film. That would be a YouTube sensation, actually.
Yeah, sure. He was not assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. He was assassinated by Charles Manson. Okay.
But Zorro, please.
And Zorro comes to save him. I don't know.
Well, finally, I have something I wanted to say. Both you guys are here celebrate the Monster Squad. You know, primarily, you know, people coming up, the banners, the photos. How do you feel though when somebody comes up to you and has either seen you on stage or seen you in something kind of even you would think obscure, and says, "Oh, I love you in this," and then for a minute you just say, "Wow, I don't think anybody's even said that to me in a long time." And just, how's that feel? Does that feel good, great?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you know, as you say, the surprise is always there, and it's always very flattering, and you feel great gratitude.
Do you get that though from time to time? Somebody just
No, I've had, you know, obscure things have happened to me, like, do you know who you are? I think I do. It's because they don't remember who you are.
Yeah, they remember the face.
They remember the face. You know, hey, you know who you are. So.
Yeah, I was in Ralph's supermarket 3 weeks ago, and I was just getting juice or some random thing. And I was just walking through, and some guy, he's walking by me, he turns around and goes, "Hey!" He goes, and this happens a lot. "I know you." They really don't know me, but they've seen me. It's like, "Hey, I know you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "You're an actor, right?" It's like, "Yeah." And he said, "You were in Seven, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I love that movie." And he said, "You were a sloth." And he said, "I know it. And this guy was a big fan of Seven, and he just had a camera, and he said, "Take a picture of you." With you. "Thanks, you were great, man. Loved you." You know, and it's just like one of those random things and everything. But a lot of times when people say, "Hey," when they say, "Hey, I know you," they really don't know you, but they've seen you in something.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it is very flattering. It's kind of like, because sometimes like, it's because at first I told this guy, I said, how did you know it was me? And I said, "Oh yeah, because there was early on in the film, they show a picture of my license before I looked scary the way I did, and it was like my mugshot." And he told me because of the, I said, "Oh, okay, I get it now." But it was over within, a couple minutes, and that was it. But it just kind of like, it was just like one of those things, But it's very flattering. It truly is, and it kind of takes you back. It's like, who, me? It's very flattering.
I had one the other day actually coming here through security in the airport, and the two gals behind the desk, both of them officers, one of them says to the other one, "Don't look now, but here comes Jeremy Irons."
And you said you're much younger.
Well, whatever.
Anyone else? Oh, yes, sir.
Duncan, can you tell us a little bit about, you did a lot of genre TV and movies, science fiction. Do you remember anything from Goliath the Wings?
What movie was that? I'm just kidding. No, it's a long time ago. Yeah, we filmed it in the bowels of the Princess Mary in San Pedro, California. I remember that. Mark Harmon was in it. Bob Forster. Christopher Lee. John Carradine, the late John Carradine. Lots of wonderful. Frank. What was that guy's name? Thank you. Right. Yeah. So there was a lot of great people in it.
It's just an amazing concept. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was almost.
That was the first movie that I did coming to Hollywood, actually.
I almost consider it like a proto-steampunk type movie, because it's been there, was down there for whatever, 50 years.
Yeah,
60 years,
yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yes.
I was just going to ask you about how it was to work with Tom Noonan on Monsters.
Well, Tom was he was great. He had, I think, a fairly good rapport with the kids and what have you, as Frankie, and we sort of had to maintain a kind of distance between the two of us, to establish that, one was the arch enemy of the other one kind of thing. So we did that for the sake of the kids. But, yeah. And he did a great job. He's around here. I don't know why he didn't come today.
Yeah, I had hoped he'd be here, but we got these two guys.
Yay, there you go. Thank you. And really thank all of you for coming to this event. Really appreciate it very much.
Thank you.